Hey guys, how are we? Well, indoors today. We've had incredibly wet weather over the last couple of weeks, but today has been really wet, and now there is flooding all around Thailand, and it's not good. So I'm not leaving this afternoon. We're inside, and just thought that I would do a quick update letting you know exactly what I think is happening in regards to geopolitical, financial and economic trends and news. And well, we said a couple of weeks back that what we were seeing was an escalation in the activity around the world in regards to geopolitical conflict, not only between Taiwan and China and the US, but we've got stuff happening in Ukraine and Russia. And it really is starting to develop into a bit of a proxy war between the US and Russia. And let me explain that a little bit further. So a couple of weeks back, we saw the Nord Stream pipeline being blown up. And there's a few people or organizations that have come out now, including the German police, who've basically said that this was the activity of a state actor. The complication of actually pulling this off is extremely high. And that's exactly what I said in a video a couple of weeks back. So a lot of this stuff is really starting to come to the fore. Now, why or who would do it and why? And we went through that in a previous video. And what we talked about was Victoria Nuland and Joe Biden both saying in February that the Nord Stream pipeline would not be allowed to be completed and become operational. And that's exactly what we've seen now. It's also come to light earlier this week that Germany was in secret talks with Russia in regards to procuring energy for later this year for the winter season, which basically puts Germany at a huge disadvantage and huge risk. So the people who are at the most risk here are Northern Europeans, including the Germans, because they're not going to have any access to energy. It's gotten so bad that I think it was the foreign minister of Greece came out and said, look, people who are in Germany who need to leave Germany and come to a warmer climate, we're going to do our best to accommodate them. So that's how dire the situation is. Unless you've lived in Northern Europe and or North America, you realize just how dire the situation is without having access to heating your property. So major problems there starting to rise. There were some protests in Germany against the actions of the US in this, because 2 days after this Nord Stream pipeline was blown up, Blinken comes out, who's the US Secretary of State, and he basically says, well, this is a great opportunity to build strong relations with Germany, so to build a tighter network of relations. And so you just can't make this stuff up. I mean, you'd just keep your mouth shut, wouldn't you? So the US has turned about in face and said, look, we want to build a greater relationship with you and supply you with more energy. And Germany is basically sitting there going, you have just screwed us, and put the nail in the coffin, because there is absolutely no way that they can negotiate with Russia at all now. They have no possibility of gaining access to that energy. So further to this, what we're seeing now is Poland starting to amass troops on its border with Ukraine and Belarus. Now, the theory is that Poland will do a preemptive strike on Belarus and annex the western part of Ukraine. And this has been part of the the musings of different strategists over the last little while, they've all said it's highly likely that Russia will annex eastern Ukraine and Poland will annex western Ukraine. And I think we're on the cusp of seeing that now, but this is a massive escalation in regards to a global conflict, because this now not only brings in Poland and Belarus, but it also basically brings in a conflict with Ukraine. Maybe it's going to be a mutual annexation of Ukraine. I'm not sure of that. The other thing that's happened and is of particular note, and that is the bridge that links Crimea with Russia has been blown up, or two sections of that bridge has been blown up. So apparently what happened was a truck blew up, and then that truck that exploded, for whatever reason, then took out 7 rail car carriages carrying fuel. I have problems with this theory, and I think it's pretty clear cut to me, what's going on. I mean, it's very convenient that that bridge linking Crimea with Crimea with Russia gets blown up, because that was one of the red lines that Vladimir Putin basically put down earlier this year. He basically said, look, that is a red line you cannot cross. You touch that bridge, it's on. And so now we're sitting back and we're watching this bridge being blown up, and the guise is, it was a truck that blew up, and then it was, fuel exploded. Let me just say that you'd have to burn through concrete and steel and bitumen, and it takes a huge amount of energy to actually burn through that, to burn through it. The explosion alone from that petrol is not enough. You need to have a high energy to break that up or burn through it. And, diesel or gasoline just does not have that type of energy. And it just brings back, memories of what happened, 20 years ago, or 21 years ago now. And I keep that cryptic for a reason. So at the end of the day, that was absolutely a military activity. And there's some people saying, well, this is just a coincidence, or this was an act of the Navy. It was the Ukrainians. It was the Americans. In actual fact, we don't know, but at the end of the day, there's only a few countries with that sort of technology, and I'll let you think about that. So this is all escalating very quickly, and my personal opinion is we're heading into a massive global conflict very quickly. If you have not made arrangements already, then I strongly suggest that you make arrangements to look after yourself and your foodstuffs. If you need to relocate, then relocate. I mean, this is global, so I mean, I'm not sure where you live in the world and what sort of risks are involved. You have to, suss it out for yourself. But it's better if you can hunker down in a spot rather than be mobile and out and about. You stand to be more vulnerable. But, if you do have to relocate, then you want to relocate sooner rather than later. And I am aware of some guys in the US that I know of that have already relocated, and they relocated about 6 weeks ago, and 6 to 8 weeks ago. So those who have experience or expertise or a knowledge and understanding of what's happening at the moment are saying this is going to be a much broader conflict. and it stands to be really, really bad. Not only for the fact of war and conflict, which kills a lot of people, but also in regards to shortages of food and energy, particularly in the winter regions. Regions that are susceptible to very harsh winters. I'll actually put it in English for you. There's a lot of different factors here that you need to take into consideration. So I do know that the Foreign Minister for Greece has put an offer out for vulnerable Germans to migrate to Greece and be housed in Greece during the winter months, and because it's a milder climate. And there's a lot of stuff happening around the world at the moment, and even further talk about conflict with Turkey and Greece, North Korea, South Korea, Taiwan, China. The list goes on. It really is a powder kegs really being built up here. But if you're going to act, you want to act sooner rather than later, as I said. The other thing that I would suggest, if you've got a IRA in the US or super in Australia, I'm not sure what the retirement plan is in the UK, but if you've got those retirement savings, strongly suggest that you transition that, and this is not advice, but transition that into gold. I'll put a link in the description below. You can click on that if you're in the US. If you're in Australia, it's Ainsley Bullion. That's the only one that I've used. Someone did say they had a bad experience with them, not with super, but with cashing in the past or buying, something like that. So, but you have to be shrewd with what you're doing. Always read the fine print and make sure that you got the best deal. But certainly a very good option at this point in time. As I said, the link is in the description below. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to leave that there. Just wanted to sort of say, hey, look, this stuff is really transitioning very quickly now. It's starting to build momentum, and it will as time goes by. And if you're caught in that sort of region, in that conflict, then it's going to get worse, and worse a lot sooner. We left Europe earlier this year, and I talked about that back in February this year. I warned people, this is what's going to happen. And I, took my own advice. I'm out of there. So if you can leave Europe, and I've said this before, strongly advise that you do that. It's going to get pretty harsh pretty quickly. Where you go is up to you. We're in Thailand for now, but other parts of Southeast Asia might be good in the interim. I know that's a very controversial thing to say, but put it out there. The other thing is South America. There's some contacts that I have over there that are loving it in Mexico. There's a guy in Brazil, another guy in Argentina. So there's heaps of options out there. You need to really investigate it for yourself and get in there and have a look. But the time is now, not in 6 months' time, I don't think, because I think it's going to get a lot worse in regards to food shortages, energy shortages, inflation, currency crises. None of it looks good. So anyway, guys, going to leave that there. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't thought about subscribing to the channel, hit the like and subscribe button. Oh, the other thing is we've set up the Facebook group to go over to Telegram, and yeah, so that's all up and running, so you can talk directly with us over there. All right, guys,